Welcome to the Chattanooga Depression Care Collective member interview series. I'm here with Kat Thomas from Your Creative Healing. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Regina. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to learn more about who you are, what you do, how it helps with depression, and why you do it. So those are some big questions, and we can kind of just start and go in whatever order you want.
Okay.
But yeah, go ahead and tell us who you are.
Sounds good. So my name is Kat, and I am an Expressive Arts Facilitator here in Chattanooga. I have been in the field for about 10 years, but just moved up here a year ago, and I'm so excited to get to know people in the community a little bit more, and offer some workshops and one-on-one classes here.
So tell us more about expressive arts facilitation.
All right, so expressive arts uses visual arts, movement, writing, meditation, sound, drama, kind of like all of the arts that you can use to express yourself. We use all of them intermodally, so using not just one at a time, but using maybe visual arts with writing or visual arts with movement to form like a healing process for people, or self-care, self-discovery, that sort of thing.
So it's the idea that it's not genre specific that's important. It's this creative flow, and when you find that, however it looks, and what that can do for your healing.
Yes, and everybody is different. So my main modalities that I use are visual arts, movement, and writing, because those are my favorites, and I find that those are three things that are the easiest for people to navigate. But yeah, really it encompasses anything where you can express yourself, pretty much.
So how did you learn that visual art, movement, and writing were your favorite things?
That's a good question. So I went to school at Expressive Arts Florida Institute in Sarasota, Florida, and they have a 2-year certificate training program there. Before I went, I have been doing my own art journaling, just kind of my own thing, where I was doing a lot of collage. I had gone through a little bit of a rough patch in life and was using that kind of as my own therapeutic tool. But then when I went to school, we did so much stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is I never thought about putting movement with things. And that has really helped to totally embody how I'm feeling, or let go of things. For me, the movement part is really a big factor in all of it. But that's how I figured out that I learned. That opened up a whole new world of things for me.
So a combination of some lived experience, a rough patch, with the ooh, what is an art journal? With the, oh, I can get trained in this and facilitate this and help people with it. And here's my favorite things.
Yes, exactly. And at the time, I was teaching elementary school, and some of my students would either come in they were having a hard morning or something like that, or something would happen during the day, and they would get upset. So I had a little peace place in my room that had art supplies and stuffed animals and blankets, and they could go back there, take a minute, and just kind of do whatever they wanted. And that's kind of how I learned that this was not just beneficial for myself, but also for other people if they're given the time and the space to connect with themselves and let go or process things.
A time and space to connect with yourself without the over intellectualization of it. I gotta think really hard about my emotions or what I want right now. It's
Yes.
oh, I'm gonna play with these mediums and see what happens.
Yes, that, and without the judgment of someone telling you whether or not your art is good. That, I feel is one of the key components of having a safe and supportive space for people to feel they can use the art materials and play with them and experiment, because they're the only ones who can decide what the art means. I don't tell people what their art means, and it really is just a process of experimentation. I think.
I'm really intrigued by the idea of like getting to play with a medium that maybe I've never approached before, because I'm like, oh, like that belongs to serious artists, or like that needs to be like good art, and then it's rather like, no, like this isn't about good or bad, this is about creation.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Because when we're little, when we're born, like I truly believe everyone is inherently creative, but then at some point in time, people learn like I am an artist or I'm not an artist, and like cut themselves off from that creative practice. But like if you give any little kid a crayon with some paper, they're gonna draw, and no one's gonna tell them whether it's like good or bad. They're just doing it because it feels good.
It's
So
like the good or bad isn't the point.
yes, so that's really what I feel like my purpose here in life is to kind of help bring that back for people, so that they can create just to feel better and like focus on the process of creating instead of like painting a perfect picture.
Creating to feel better. That's juicy.
Yes.
I want to know more about that in the context of depression. How does what you do help with depression?
So I think what I do helps with anyone, but specifically with depression, I think being able to take how you're feeling and make an image about it, or use some paints, pick a color that expresses how you're feeling, or even just writing. And I teach people how to do free writing, so kind of like stream of consciousness writing, where you just start with a couple of words and see what happens. It really helps like get everything out, because I feel like when you hold a lot of stuff in, then it's just all in. But
well, like think about like what it means to physically depress something. It's like push it down. So if you just keep pushing it down, it's like it's going to get depressed, and depression is a thing that like emerges from that. So if you're not depressing it and you're free writing and you're just letting it flow,
yes,
of course that's going to be some catharsis.
Letting it out, and just you got to let it out, and then if you do it enough, and it's a practice, right? Like nothing is meant to be perfect, and so it's just a practice of getting into a habit of having a practice like that. I don't know how else to explain it, but
so I'm hearing like feeling better through creativity happens because it's an action, you're doing it.
Yes,
it's about like letting things flow out of you without judgment, showing up and seeing what happens and going from there.
Yeah, so if you can change your approach to one of experimentation and just seeing what will happen, that I feel like is when the magic happens of, like you said, letting go of some of the things that are weighing you down.
So do you help people make that shift from like this needs to be perfect to this is an experiment?
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that?
How do I do that? I do have an inner critic meditation that I do with people sometimes, that really just helps you like picture your inner critic and make it really small, and then just we don't need it for this practice. We don't need it for today, because it really is just trying to keep you safe. But
like thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I don't need you right now. And then I also have some things that anybody can do that I think really focusing on making art that no one else is going to see besides you really kind of takes away the pressure of making something perfect. But it is a practice. Like it's not something that like goes away instantly. It does take a little bit of time, I think.
So getting in dialogue with your inner critic and saying thank you, and then making art that nobody's going to see except for you.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do, like, learning how to do that? For you, do you show up every day? Do you make art every day? Like, what does that practice component look like?
For myself, I don't do it every day. I have been making more art more recently, but for me, it's almost more of when I feel overwhelmed or like stressed out or something, and I'm like, let me just make something in my art journal.
You take the edge off with making art.
Yes, exactly. So, or sometimes I'll wake up in the morning and do a lot of writing. Like, I have a notebook that I have.
Like a morning pages thing?
Kind of like, yes. Like Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. She does like morning pages, if you don't know about that.
I just did that program and I was
really?
like, oh, interesting.
It's so good. That was one of the books I got like after my training, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. Because it does help you, because it is like a daily thing. So then I feel like you get into the habit of doing something every single day.
I feel like you're talking about how consistency isn't only a daily thing. Like, you can be consistent over a week, you can be consistent over a month. It's not about this like regimented, you have to do it this way.
Yes, I don't teach that way. I know some people do, and I know that works for some people to have something like built into a routine. But for me, I base a lot of things on feeling and what works for whoever I'm working with. So like, if it's not going to work for you to like sit down every single day when you're having your coffee and do something, then don't do it, because the last thing you want is to feel like a failure that you like missed a day, or that you couldn't keep up with the routine, so then you just aren't doing it anymore.
The inner critic thrived on that. It's like, I told you that you can't take this risk, and like all those loud, crunchy, tangly voices.
Yes. Yeah. So I say do things when you feel like you need to do them.
It's like permission to play and permission for it to be like a fit, not a force.
Yes. Ooh, I like that.
Yeah,
a fit, not a force.
Yeah, like there might be something there in that language. So
yeah.
I hear you say like how you work with people. I want to know more about, like, I know you teach classes. Do you do one-on-one? Like, if someone wants to work with you, what does that even look like?
Yeah. Yeah, I do the classes. I have done some one-on-one work with people.
What kind of classes do you do?
Oh, I do so many different classes.
How would you characterize, like, is there a thread that ties them together, or is it all, I guess, expressive?
Yeah, I usually just say like art for self-care, because I feel like with that you can, if you want to just have fun while you're making something, that can be your intention for your session. But if you really want to like process something that's been like annoying you or like going on in your life, then that can be, your intention for the setting. So, or the session. But people can work with me. I've done online sessions with people. I'm telling you, I tailor everything to like however people want to do it. Some people don't like making art in front of other people. So
It's vulnerable.
Yes,
yeah.
It is. So I'll give them a lesson and they can do it at home, and then we meet afterwards. But I also have done stuff in person with people too. I just bring some supplies and we really just decide like why you want to have the session, and then go from there. They're very open-ended. So with expressive arts, like I said, since it's not really about focusing on making something specific, it's more just like starting and then seeing what happens.
It's like taking the idea of like who is an artist and like art like off of the pedestal and like bringing it back to like, oh yeah, like as humans we are creatures and creative naturally.
Anybody, yeah, everybody, anybody can do it. And then like I said, I have like very specific activities or ways to get started, like techniques to get started, because I think one of the hardest things is having like a blank piece of paper in front of you.
Do you want to tell us more about one of those like specific ways to get started?
Yes, I'm trying to think if I have something here. I feel like I do somewhere.
We're in the space.
We're in the space. So one thing, I don't know if you've ever used India ink before.
I have not.
India ink is one of my favorite things. It is permanent though, but you just like dump some of that out and put a string in there and move it around, and then move it around on a piece of paper, and it creates the design, and then you can paint it however you want.
Can you use paint for it, or does it have to be India ink?
You paint to
To get started.
to get started.
Like if I didn't have India ink and I wanted to like have this blank page in front of me, what could I do?
I mean, I feel like you could do that.
Dump my paint.
I haven't tried it, but I feel like you could. Yeah. I feel like this is the other thing, is following your impulses and like things that you feel like you want to do. Like that.
This is another question I wanted to ask you about. Like, people talk about like the opposite of depression, and sometimes they call it expression. So like this relationship between depression and expression. And I'm curious, like when you're in the depression pit, like that expression feels forever away, and like those impulses, you're numb from them quite often. So if I'm completely numb from my impulses, what do I do?
That.
Just get a piece of paper and some ink and just like whatever
And just
happens.
put it on there and see what happens. Yeah. Because it's so easy. And that really only takes like 2 minutes. You know, it doesn't take a lot of time. So I know sometimes tasks when you're depressed seem like overwhelming to be able, even something that normally may not take too much time to do.
It feels monumental.
Yes, it's just like so much. So I feel like keeping things very simple and easy to do.
It makes me think about getting like a little tiny notebook, and it's like, okay, this is my art journal. Like I just have like a the tiniest of doodles in here, and that's all I need to do today.
Yes.
Or just like making it bite size.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because I went through a phase, and I do think that is super helpful, but of making like 2 by 2 inch paintings essentially, and just putting watercolor on there one day, and that's it. You just do some water, like
So
a tiny bit of watercolor.
It
That's
doesn't have to be big.
Mm-mm.
It doesn't have to be a masterpiece.
No,
It doesn't have to be for anyone.
nope.
It doesn't have to be for anything.
Don't have to show it to anyone. Nope, doesn't have to be for anything.
Just having something that you can show up and do. And when you have the impulses following, like, oh, I want to make stamps with leaves, whatever it is, and then when you don't have them, just picking something and trying it.
I do, yes, and I do recommend having like a basket of supplies, or like having your stuff where you can, when you do have the urge, to have everything accessible, because the last thing you want is to be running around like looking for whatever. But yeah, I do think keeping it small can sometimes be more manageable than like having like a large piece of paper you have to fill up.
Yeah, keeping it manageable, keeping it bite-sized, keeping it doable, keeping it easy. Sounds like
Easy.
playful and easy and not like pressure.
Yeah, it doesn't have, and like I said, it doesn't have to be anything. It can just be like one brush stroke on the paper, and that's all you feel like doing today. You know what I mean? So, like maybe one brush stroke and one word. Have a little word, write the date on there, and that's it.
So you said self-care art earlier, right? Do people normally think about art in the context of self-care?
I think now a little bit more than, say, maybe like, definitely like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't think that was the thing. I think when COVID happened, there was a larger focus on mental health, because everything was out of your control. Like a lot, you know, it's like your routine is not the same, and like everything was just so up in the air. So I think that people started finding different outlets for like how to take care of themselves. So I think that it's becoming a little bit more well known, and even just, yeah, I think it's becoming more well known. I don't think everyone understands it yet, but we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
Yeah. So like, what do you want people to know about art as self-care?
Anyone can do it.
You can do it.
Anyone can do it. When you have the right mindset and approach things from a place of experimentation, having fun, just relaxing a little bit.
So let me reflect that. Anyone can do art as self-care as long as you're approaching it as experimentation. Mm-hmm. Is that how you would say that?
Yeah, I feel like as long as you know that your art is not there to hurt you, it's there to help you, right? It's there to help you on your journey, even if you make something that's like a little bit like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I made that. It's there for a reason, and it needed to come out.
Your art is there to help you, not hurt you.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's the gem.
Nugget.
Yeah. Because I want to give you the opportunity for the people who need your help. Like, what do you want them to know about working with you and like the space you hold?
That it's fun. And then I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to just be there with you in the space rather than, you being in the space and me being here. We're like in the space together. So it's a together, we're there together. And that I have also been in dark places. So it's been like such a helpful tool for me. And that's why I feel so passionate about it, is like that's why, because it's been so helpful for me, and I just want other people to know that like you can use it as a tool. It doesn't have to be like something, like you said, like up on a pedestal that's like hard to reach.
So you're doing this because you know how powerful it was for you, and you're ready to be like, hello friends, let's have some fun, let's play with this, let's see what we can transform.
Yeah, that, and also like, yes, we can do one-on-one sessions, but also like, I love having group sessions too, just like all the supplies are out and you just make whatever you want to make in the moment. Like, and it's so fun because then you get to like connect with other people as well.
Community is also important because depression is so isolating.
Yeah, and that you're never alone.
So what's the best way for people to get involved in your world?
Follow me on Instagram at your_creative_healing. Or
we'll put that in the notes too. Yeah.
Or my website. I have a contact form on there. And yeah, come to some of my events.
How do you announce your events? Is it just on Instagram?
Mostly on Instagram. Yeah, I try to put them on my website, but sometimes I'm not very good about that. And I hope to be offering some more online things too, because sometimes it's hard to make it to in-person events. So having something online where you can just log in and
here we are.
With everyone else. We're all here.
There you are with everyone else. Yeah. So your art is here to help you, not hurt you, and expression helps with depression. Is there anything else that you want to leave us with?
I don't think so. I like those 2 nuggets at the end. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Kat Thomas, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.